Hey, good day, everybody. I'm Admiral Jim Stavridis, the Supreme Allied Commander, as well as the Commander of U.S. European Command. I want to welcome all of you to this extremely important gathering of the Reserve Officers Association for the Alliance. And I very much, as I do every year, look forward to hearing the results of the meetings that you're conducting. I'm very pleased to give you a very quick introduction to what's on my mind, so that hopefully it'll be part of the discussion that unfolds for all of you. As always, my top topic remains Afghanistan. I think we're making steady progress there, and I commend the role of the reserves and the way you have helped support all of the militaries as we go forward in what continues to be the #1 operational challenge for the alliance. I'm also watching the Balkans very closely, as you would expect. We've seen a resurgence of a level of kind of tension in northern Kosovo. I am very concerned that we do not fall backwards. I think many of us are old enough to remember 10 years ago when the Balkans were really a center of discord, discontent, and movement of people across borders. We were in active combat there. We've come a long way in 10 years. But I think it's important that we not fall back, and thus I'm watching very closely the events in Kosovo to make sure that we, NATO, can continue to provide a safe and secure environment there. We're wrapping up now, or have really wrapped up, the Libyan operation, very successful for the alliance. We conducted our missions in support of United Nations Security Council resolutions. We're able to provide an arms embargo, a no-fly zone, and protect the population of Libya. Today, Libya is a free nation moving forward, and I think we can be very proud of our role there, acting under United Nations Security Council resolutions to complete Operation Unified Protector. I'm also watching very closely piracy operations off of East Africa. For the Naval Reserve officers, I commend the maritime part of our alliance for the good work that we've done over the last several years. We've now seen piracy success rates much diminished in terms of their ability to get on board these ships and pirate them. And we've also seen a drop in the number of actual attacks over the last year. So we're making progress. It remains very challenging. There are still ships that are held hostage, mariners that are held hostage. We've got to collectively continue to work there. I'm also watching closely relations between NATO and Russia. We always seek to find zones of cooperation with the Russian Federation. We'll continue to do that, and there are many. We can cooperate in Afghanistan on counterterrorism, on counter-narcotics. I hope over time we will find a way to find responsible cooperation on missile defense, where the alliance is moving forward in a way that does not threaten Russia, and we want to find a way to cooperate and ensure that together we are moving forward in a positive strategic relationship with Russia. I'm also thinking a lot about cyber this year. I think reserves play an important role in all of the challenges I've discussed, but when I think of cyber, I think this is an area in which so much of the solution to the security challenge lies in the integration between the civilian sector and the military sector. And thus, where you sit as reserve officers is in a position to be extremely helpful in the world of cyber. I'm open to good ideas for how the alliance can do better in defense, how we can think about cyber policy, and how we can use our reserves effectively in the world of cyber. I know that's one of your topics, and I look forward to hearing more about it. I'm also, as I mentioned, thinking about missile defense, which is moving forward as the alliance moves toward our May summit in Chicago, and I'm confident that we'll be able to declare interim capability for the missile defense operation that we're putting in place for the alliance by that time. I'll also mention that we're in the midst of a great deal of NATO reform. We're reducing the command structure from 13,000 billets down to about 9,000 billets. We're reducing our headquarters from about 11 large standing NATO command structure headquarters down to only 6. This is part of the general trend of budget reductions around the alliance, including in the United States, where we are reducing overall military defense expenditures by between 8 and 10%, similar to what we're seeing here in Europe. So I think here again is an area in which the reserves can be very helpful. As we all face these budget cuts, as we bring down the size of our headquarters, we need to be able to reach into the reserves and reach into the force structure in ways that allow us to respond to crisis. So I would encourage you to be thinking about what is the role of the reserves in an era of somewhat reduced defense expenditure. Third, and finally, for the reserves, I think you have a very important role to play as we continue to downsize our presence in Afghanistan. We are successfully turning over combat operations to the Afghan security forces. Today, 50% of the population of Afghanistan falls under Afghan security lead. Therefore, we can responsibly reduce the number of our troops in Afghanistan. They'll be coming home. So, how do we use them? What kind of exercises do we do? What kind of training do we do? What are the ways in which we can help our wounded warriors? These are all areas in which I think the reserves have an important, indeed potentially a critical role to play. So I'd encourage you to think about that one as well. Well, I hope I've given you an overall sense of what I'm thinking about in the alliance today. Everywhere I go, I see the good work of the reserve component, of the reserve officers. I'm very proud of all of you. And again, I'd ask you specifically to think a bit about cyber, which I think is very important, a bit about your role in an era of resources reducing, training, exercises, support to our deployed forces coming home. And lastly, I would ask you to think a little bit about how you would fit in the world of budget cutting. I think all those things fit together in a certain sense, and I think it's an area in which the reserves can play a very important role. Thanks for taking a minute with me. I continue to be a big supporter of the reserves and your organization. I look forward to the results of your conference. Thanks a lot.